Redditors with a murderer in the family. What's your story? Story 1. My grandfather left my grandmother when she was pregnant with my mom. He started a new family with another woman and had 6 kids. They had a spat, and he eliminated all of the kids with a knife and mallet. According to my uncle, my grandfather was batshit crazy with them too before he left. Story 2. When I was 12 and just starting 7th grade, my 16-year-old brother went to his girlfriend's house to eliminate her and himself. It turned out that she wasn't home, and he ended up wrestling with the girlfriend's mom and accidentally eliminate her with the gun he stole from my stepdad. I remember I found out when a bunch of police came to my house at like 8 p.m. to search every room. When my teachers found out, I was more shunned than nurtured, which is probably why I'm more quiet than I used to be. Answer: Hey there. I'm actually a local in the area this happened in and remember the story. Mind if I share the link to the article for those who want to read it? I understand if not. Better to ask you before, just to be sure. Edit. OP gave permission to share the article. Please do not brigade OP in any way, as OP's brother is mentioned by name as well as the name of the victim. Thank you for letting me share it, you Garrido Burrito. Story 3. My uncle. He eliminated the town jerk. They found the body in a garbage pile 2 years later with his throat slit. My uncle was sentenced to life without parole. Prison riot broke out. He saved the life of 2 guards that other prisoners were trying to eliminate. Parole board called him in after the riot and voted to free him. A few weeks later, after saving those guards' lives, he moved in with his friend. His friend was having an affair at the time with a man's wife, and one night, that man shows up at the door. Instead of eliminate my uncle's roommate, he eliminate my uncle. They let the guy who eliminate my uncle go free. He lied saying my uncle attacked him first, and my uncle couldn't argue because he was dead. A few months later, that man who walked free for eliminate my uncle was takedown, and they never figured out who did it. My dad says he knows for sure it was one of my older relatives at the time in Tulsa who ordered a hit on that man for eliminate my uncle. It was takedown dominoes in Oklahoma at the time. People were just quick to pull the trigger back then. Story 4. My stepfather beat my mother to passing in front of my brother and I. We were 5 and 7 years old. He disposed of her body somewhere, and it hasn't been found yet. He got the hard 40 due to me and my brother being the key witnesses in the takedown trial. It's been 25 years, and it sucks because I want some sort of closure, my mom's body to be finally laid to rest. Story 5. My uncle got a friend at his place once. They started to drink, and they both got pretty tipsy. At some point, a fight broke out between them. Then the friend fell on a knife, on his back, twice. Uncle did his time in prison, don't know how much he got, but eventually got out, went back to the same house. He died like 10 years ago. Story 6. My grandfather apparently eliminated my grandmother in front of my dad. My dad claims he doesn't remember any of it, but my mom said she heard it from my dad's sister who ended up raising him. I think it could be true because my dad does tell me stories about how his dad was in jail for most of his life. Story 7. My dad's grandfather shot and eliminated 5 people and tried eliminate many more, including one of his sons. He managed to get away though. When someone told him that God was going to punish him, he started shooting at the sky, yelling at God to come dome and fight like a man. He died sometime later while eating shellfish. Apparently, he was deathly allergic. Story 8. My great-grandfather helped eliminate a man who had been bitten by a rabid fox. He had been tied to his bed when he started thrashing and becoming incoherent, and great-grandpa and 2 other men held a mattress over him until he suffocated. Story 9. My dad has told my mother in some somber heart to hearts about how he watched his Uncle Jimmy eliminate 2 people with his own eyes and suspects he's eliminate others. Apparently, it happened down in rural Virginia. where the law is mostly regulated by the common folk, and you could easily get away with that shoot, at least in the 70s. My dad said he came out to get a glass of water one night as a small child to find the kitchen flooded with blood, and his uncle hovering over a decapitated friend he had an argument with. He said he really remembers the feeling of it soaking into his socks as he realized what happened, and he doesn't even know if he cried or not. Apparently, a few years later, after my dad's cousin was beaten by her boyfriend, Jimmy showed up at the house, came inside like it was all normal, and grabbed his shovel and walked back out. My dad peeked out the window and watched as Jimmy pulled the unconscious boyfriend from the car and bashed his head in with the shovel. When Jimmy started back for the house, my dad pretended to be asleep. Jimmy is dead now. But those takedown have fudged my dad up something fierce. He's never told anybody but my mom, and he only talks about it when he's tipsy and alone. I only met Jimmy once when I was a baby, and I have a really eerie picture with him at my mom's. It's weird to think about how I'm being held by the same hands that eliminate people. Story 10. My mom's new boyfriend take down his wife because she drove tipsy with their kids. But when I looked up what happened, he drove her 45 minutes away to the town I work in and strangled her. Then he ditched her body and filed a missing persons report. He went to jail for 25 years. We told my mother that this was going to tear our family apart, but she still chose him over myself and my brother. My brother and I both have small children. It's just something we don't want around our families. Before we knew anything, my mother introduced my brother's daughter to her new boyfriend. His daughter ran up to him and hugged him because she trusted my mother's judgment. I try and see her often and talk to her every week, but she is kind of dead to my brother now. Added info. This is all after my father died. 42 years happily married. She met her boyfriend through church. She never looked up how he did it or if there were any warning signs, which there were. She decided to go through with their relationship after 3 months of dating. And she always uses the "I wish you wanted me to be happy" line. It infuriates me. I lost it on her last time she tried to pull that shoot. I've blatantly told her, "You're going to lose Bill if you don't break up with him." And she says that's a decision my brother Bill is going to have to accept because she wants to be happy and this guy makes her happy. She recently bought a house with him. His name isn't on the mortgage supposedly. They've been dating for 11 months. Answer. My ex-wife's mother went through a midlife crisis a while ago. She left my, at the time, father-in-law and started bouncing between guys. Finally, she landed on an insanely jealous guy who had a previous arrest for beating a woman into a coma. This guy made her account for her whereabouts constantly and accused her of cheating. It got bad enough where I threatened to shoot him if he showed up at my house, where she was, as he was convinced she was lying and going to check up on her, with my 2 toddlers at home. I also banned her from ever watching the kids alone due to her association with him and my overall lack of faith in her judgment. Finally, she left him and got a restraining order after like 2 years of putting up with his bullshit. Apparently, he saw her out with someone else, had his father drive him to her house and shot her in the head in front of her oldest daughter. Story 11. I was idly Googling serial killers, as you do, when I realized that I had the same very uncommon last name as Ed Gein's mother before her marriage. My family is from suspiciously near the site of his takedown as well. It happened to be Thanksgiving, so I asked my grandparents about it, but of course my grandmother was like, "No, that can't be possible." My grandfather, the stoic type, stayed silent. So yeah, it turns out, my great-grandfather was likely Ed Gein's first or second cousin. My grandfather later admitted they didn't hear about it at the time, not being super close with that side of the family. In addition, I can't imagine that it'd be something that people would talk about. I knew my great-grandfather, and looking at Ed Gein's photo sent chills down my spine. They looked very alike. My brother calls him Cousin Ed. Story 12. My dad's Uncle Tim take down his girlfriend with a shower pole when he was in his 30s. He got 30-something years. My granddad died last year, and Tim, my granddad's brother, was released a few days before and turned up to the funeral. I've never felt such an awkwardness at a funeral. Story 13. My uncle eliminated 2 men in 1992. He told us the whole story. It was a hot day in June, and he was trying to repair his sawing machine in a shed next to his house when he saw an army vehicle coming. 2 Serbs came out of the Jeep, armed with AK-47s, and yelled, "Frane, we're here to eliminate you. Come out, so we can shoot you, you bastard." But my uncle wasn't in the house, and those 2 guys didn't know that he was a hunter who had a rifle in the shed. He took his gun and shot them when they noticed that he was not in his house. He then fled to the non-occupied part of Croatia, joined the Croatian army, and the rest is PTSD. Story 14. Live in a Canadian city where any serious crime is very rare. When someone gets takedown, it's big news. Was a big story about a pregnant woman found inside her house after it had burned to the ground. She was takedown inside. It was absolutely disgusting. I get a text from my sister a few months later with a link. I opened it. It was my local paper publishing the name of the killer who was recently caught. Turns out it was my cousin. Thinking about it later, it wasn't much of a shock. One of the "how did I not see that" things. It didn't really seem to affect my family. Made for some conversation, sure, but apart from his mother and father missing a few family events, not much has changed. Nothing at all, actually. I feel terrible for his mother, though. Seeing her so broken and seemingly still in disbelief, that's what hurts. Story 15. My great X7 aunt is said to have taken down her sister-in-law and 10-month-old niece before burning down their house. She's called the Witch of Staten Island, and Edgar Allan Poe wrote about her in his newspaper. Story 16. My idiot cousin tried to light his GF's cigarette at a gas station and set the poor girl on fire. I'd feel bad for him if the fudge didn't run away instead of helping her. Story 17. My cousin eliminated a child. For almost a decade, he went on with his life, getting engaged, having a career. I think to myself, how does someone carry on like that? Knowing the pain you caused? I'll never know, I guess. He was questioned initially, and they had DNA evidence, but at the time, DNA evidence bringing forth a conviction was a few years away. They decided to run it and found a match. He was under surveillance, and a cop sat beside him at a bar, chatted with him, and when he left, they took a cigarette butt to get his DNA. My mother and I actually met up with him just by coincidence at a cultural gathering. My mom remembers a strange man coming up to her right after she did. It's strange and very unnerving to think there may be images or tape out there with us on it. He tried to worm his way out of it. His lies were almost as horrific as his crime. He was found guilty. He's been in jail almost 20 years now, not one of us, and we come from a large family, have ever gone to see him or exchange letters. His mother died a year after he was sentenced. I'm not sure if he knows. His sisters both had high-profile careers. One sister retired early to avoid scrutiny, and the other changed professions altogether. People say when someone eliminates another, it should not reflect the family in any way. It's one thing to say it, and another thing to live it. There will always be a stigma around your family. Or whispers. We did not suffer in any way remotely equivalent to the victim's family, but the family of murderers too suffer and have a stain on us we can never wipe up. Answer: small world dude. I happened to work with a detective, later turned PI, who told me the same story from his perspective. Apparently, the takedown was covered on documentary television. The detective was a really kind and interesting dude. I was interning at the college in Toronto, where he was teaching police foundations. I still have the birthday card he gave me. He told me that your cousin seemed to know he was a cop and had really crazy instincts. Story 18. My uncle was the awesome uncle. Me, being the wild teenagers, always thought this. He gifted me an 8-bag for Christmas one year. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Anyhow, that's not this story. My uncle was into substances, partying, and just being crazy. But he had a good heart. He lived in a small town. Everyone knew him, knew he was crazy, but was a great guy. He was fun, a storyteller, and was rather likable. He had this girlfriend who was molested by her father when she was little. Her little sister still lived with the father and supposedly was still being molested. The whole town knew this, but no one did much. My uncle was on a drunken meth trip and somehow it came up. He went out to the man's house, got into an altercation with the guy, and demanded that he confessed. Beat up, the father did confess. This confession fueled my uncle's rage, and he cut the man's male body part off, shoved it into his mouth, and then slit the man's throat. It doesn't end there. My uncle took the man, still squirming and moaning, and threw him into the back of his truck. He drove down a couple houses to my dad's house and woke him up. He took my dad out to show him the dying body, said his goodbyes, and went on. My dad doesn't speak of this much, but I can only imagine how sad and messed up this conversation probably went. My uncle left and my dad called the police. My uncle made his way to my grandpa's to share the same tale and then moved off to the small town square. This is where he took the body to the local bar, had a few drinks, and brought people out to see the body. He was showing his trophy, showing the others that he finally took care of the guy. He then left the bar and went around the block to the police station and threw the body from the back of the truck onto the police station's door. SWAT was now looking for him, so my uncle went and holed up in a friend's house. For several hours, my uncle stayed in the bedroom while SWAT surrounded him. He had been in prison for DUIs and didn't want to go back, and he knew he was fudged this time. So, he took his pistol and shot himself there. The story is sad, and we all really miss my uncle. I'm not saying what he did was acceptable, but a lot of people supported him for some reason. The victim's family was put into even more turmoil. I believe my uncle's girlfriend went to the loony bin for a few years. Who knows where she is now? The girlfriend and little sister are the real victims. Don't do meth. Story 19. It wasn't takedown, per se, but my dad was in the army and got in a fight with another man. He eliminated him. He was let go without serious reprimand. BC the CO thought my dad was fun. This isn't the US Army, in case anyone's wondering, and it was during wartime, so I don't think the priority was on persecuting crimes like this. Edit. I also believe that the leader of my dad's unit kind of didn't give a fudge. I've read accounts of soldiers being punished for crimes during the war, so it's not like it was pure anarchy lawlessness throughout the entire army. Story 20. All three are dead now, but had a cousin who robbed a convenience store in the 70s, blew the clerk in half with a sawed-off shotgun. He was 16 when he did this crime. Went to prison, got out some years later, and tried to run over a motorcycle cop. The cop was one of the ones that arrested him. Cop barely survived, and cousin went back to prison. Got out again, and within 3 months of being out, he died in his sleep. Grandfather beat a known child molester more than likely to passing if he didn't eliminate him. The other men in the neighborhood that carried him away probably finished the job because his family continued living there and he never was seen again. Had a distant, long-dead relative, not sure the exact relationship between us, who stabbed a child molester to passing with an ice pick. Rage and hatred for child molesters apparently runs deep in my family. Story 21. My great-grandfather married twice. His first wife was incredibly beautiful, so much that a lot of women were envious of her. Among these, my great-grandfather's twin sisters. At one point, their envy won over them, and they planned and eliminate her with a shotgun. It was in a small mountain town in Italy. Everybody knew something was off, but nobody said anything, until one of the two sisters confessed the takedown on her deathbed. When my mom told me, I couldn't believe it. Edit, grammar. Story 22. My uncle was a mean old bastard and crazy. He decided he had had it with his neighbor's dogs barking, so he decided to grab his gun and shoot the dog through the fence. I wasn't there for it, and I was fairly young at the time, but my understanding of it is that, unbeknownst to him, the neighbor was kneeling down next to the dog, and my uncle ended up shooting and eliminate the neighbor instead. My uncle then eliminated himself, but I don't think he did it immediately afterwards. I believe he did it in jail while he was awaiting trial. Story 23. Not necessarily family, well, sorta, but I have two ancestors, Big Harp and Little Harp, who were America's first serial killer source. Edit. Clarification on family. Story 24. My uncle take down his roommate. My uncle is crazy, so it was only a matter of time. He was upset by the way his roommate kept his bedroom and just snapped. He stabbed him to passing and hid his body in the closet for 4 days. The roommate's girlfriend discovered it when she hadn't heard from him. My mom always said that it was just a matter of time before he'd take down someone. Story 25. This is my first time commenting on Reddit. I have a story to share. I have only ever told my boyfriend this. My older brother take down my father. He was 17 at the time. He snapped one day and apparently eliminate him with a knife and a hammer. I feel really sad when I imagine what my dad's last few moments were like. I think he probably felt a deep betrayal and an overwhelming sadness that his own son did this to him. I wonder if he was able to come to terms with what was happening before he passed. I know he must have suffered, but I hope at least he wasn't angry up to the point of his passing, that he could feel some peace. But in reality, he probably died in agony and despair from being stabbed over and over, watching his life literally drain out of him. Then my brother dismembered him and put his body in garbage bags and dumped him in the woods. Just imagine that. A person you know, no longer a person but slabs of meat. A month went by before we started getting considered calls. I lived in a separate home with my mom because my parents were separated at the time. My mom called their house to see where my dad was, and at that point, my brother confessed. My mom called the police, and we were all brought into the police station. I was 16. While waiting for our police interviews, I wasn't allowed to speak to my other younger brother or my mom. We were separated so we wouldn't collaborate. My older brother confessed and ended up pleading guilty to take down, I think, first degree, but maybe second. Went to juvie for a few years, then switched to adult jail. He was released after 6 years in prison. I think the legal system is pretty interesting. You can eliminate a human being and serve 6 years in trade for saving the tax dollar the money of a trial. He went back to jail a while later for animal cruelty. I don't know if he's in or out right now. I don't really want to. Haven't spoken to him for 8 years now. My father was not really a good person either. He was abusive to my mom, and I felt scared around him. The last time I saw him, he threatened to eliminate my mom in front of me. At the same time, he loved me, and I have some good memories with him. It's complicated. I also always felt scared of my older brother. I'd hide a knife under my pillow when he lived in my house, because I was scared he'd try something with me in the middle of the night. The take down happened in the summer before I entered 11th grade. It was surreal. The day I learned that my dad was eliminate, I came home from a weekend cabin trip with a boy I kinda liked. I remember I was wearing my favorite pair of socks when I was fingered for the first time with said boy at the cabin, and I was still wearing them when I heard my dad was eliminated. It was a strange juxtaposition, being a normal teenager on one hand, and then this massive culmination of violence on the other. It certainly changed my life. Story 26. My great-great-grandfather take down my great-great-grandmother. He was very abusive, and she tried to leave him. She ran away and stayed with her parents, who called him and told him exactly where she was, because a woman's place is apparently to mind her husband. He goes to face her. He goes apeshit. She shoots him in the stomach with the pistol he didn't know she had, and her parents call for help. Unfortunately, he survives. While she's in her car, he walks up and shoots her in the head with his rifle. It was deemed a tragic end, though he threatened many of my family members, saying things like he'll eliminate you like I eliminate my whore of a wife. TLDR. GG grandma shot my abusive GG grandpa in the stomach in self-defense. He survived and shot her dead.